Hello everybody. In this video we will try to understand different padas of Ardra Nakshatra. So the first pada or quarter of this particular nakshatra ranges from 6 degree 40 minutes of Gemini to 10 degrees of Gemini. And if you observe any planet is present in Ardra Nakshatra first pada, in the Navamsha chakra that planet goes to Sagittarius Navamsha. So Ardra first pada is said to be Sagittarius Navamsha because any planet present in Ardra first pada goes to Sagittarius Navamsha, Sagittarius in the sign of Navamsha chakra. So of course Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So as Jupiter is coming into the picture, if you see whole Ardra energy, Ardra relates to Rahu and it is in the sign of Gemini, so it belongs to Mercury as well. And in the Navamsha, it is actually ruled by Jupiter. So the amalgamation of Jupiter, Mercury and Rahu energies you can see in the Ardra first pada. So this particular pada relates to the exploratory and curious side of Ardra Nakshatra. It's curious because of Sagittarius influence. So generally Sagittarius energy relates to curiousness and also exploratory behavior. And planets placed here have a happy-go-lucky disposition but are prone to material excesses. So they want more and more materialism. So this is the beginning of the storm and the conditions here are not very unfavorable, you can say. So Ardra is like a storm, right? Till then the clouds are present and once Ardra is coming into the picture, that's it, the rain starts, the storm starts. So Ardra is like a storm, as it is the Ardra first pada is the beginning of this particular storm. So you can see the conditions are not very unfavorable, those are fine. Ardra first pada is okay, it's a fine one, right? Don't worry about Ardra first pada. So generally Ardra is a bit dangerous, people think, but Ardra first pada is, of course, it's fine. No need to worry, kind of, because the storm is not yet started. And if you see the second pada of this particular nakshatra, it ranges from 10 degrees of Gemini to 13 degree 20 minutes of Gemini, and it relates to Capricorn Navamsha, ruled by Saturn. So the energies of Saturn, Rahu and then the Mercury is present in Ardra 2. So this pada gives a strong interest in all types of materialistic pursuits and frustration because of that. They want to achieve so much and then you can see the kind of frustration. So most of the negative qualities of this particular nakshatra are manifested through this particular pada. So Rahu is always about material excessiveness. So that material excessiveness behavior, the negative qualities of that, you can see in Ardra Nakshatra's second pada. So the storm has gained momentum here and thus the planets placed here give constant troubles and also constant misfortunes. So Ardra second pada people have to perform some propitiations, otherwise it's not a very good pada, you can say, because the storm has gained momentum, right? So the kind of misfortunes and troubles Ardra 2 people or the planets placed in Ardra 2 can give the native are really a bit problematic. If you see the third pada of this particular nakshatra, it ranges from 13 degree 20 minutes to 16 degree 40 minutes of Gemini and it falls in Aquarius Navamsha, it's ruled by Saturn again. So this pada relates to the electrical, scientific and research oriented part of Ardra's functioning. Because Aquarius is always about research, right? Scientific research kind of stuff is always going in Aquarius. So the storm here is at its peak lightning stage, and thus the planets posited here can give short, sudden bursts of inspiration. So whichever planet is present in Ardra 3 can give short, sudden bursts of inspiration, and mental activity is at its peak in this particular pada. So Ardra 3 is having that kind of mental activity, right? So it is at its peak, you can say that. That's why it's very good pada for scientific research. And another pada is a fourth pada of Ardra Nakshatra, ranging from 16 degrees 40 minutes to 20 degrees of Gemini, and it falls in Pisces Navamsha. Again, Jupiter is coming into the picture. So this is the Pushkara Navamsha pada of Ardra, and it relates to the sensitive and compassionate aspect of Ardra. So Ardra 4th pada is a bit good. It has a strong desire to help those less fortunate than itself in the process of evolution. So Ardra 4 people are the planets. If you have some good planets in Ardra 4, yes, you are very helpful. And Ardra 4th pada, right, is considered to be a good pada in Ardra Nakshatra, because they have that strong desire to help, right, others who are less fortunate than them. So here the storm is ending, and so the conditions are mild and peaceful in comparison to the Ardra 2 and Ardra 3. Ardra 1st is a bit better. Ardra 4 is also better. 2 and 3 are a bit like storm, and Ardra 2 is not so comfortable thing. Ardra 3 of course gives some good momentum in scientific research. And planets posited in Ardra 4 are generally, they give a kind of benefic results. So Ardra 1, Ardra 4 are good. Ardra 4 is much better. Ardra 3, of course, it's having that scientific research thing, but Ardra 2 is where native may find a lot of misfortunes and troubles. So generally, if you observe Ardra energy, in the professions of electrical engineers and electricians, you can observe Ardra energy. Electronic and computer industry, and computer software developers, sound engineers and technicians, musicians, especially those involved in electronic music. So much of electronics, right? Electronic computers, because Gemini is the communication world, and Ardra is in the middle of Gemini. So computer software developers, sound engineers, technicians, the kind of technology, right? A lot of technology. You talk about a lot of technology when you talk about Gemini. So English language experts and weapon experts, photographers, special effects people in the film industry, computer game designers and sci-fi buffs, 3D and virtual reality experts, because Rahu's presence is all giving this stuff, right? And also manual laborers of all types, physicists, mathematicians and researchers, scientists, profound thinkers, philosophers, writers and novelists, especially of the science fiction genre. All the science fiction is related to Ardra, you can say. Surgeons, physicians who administer poisons in small amounts as remedies, like in some of the medical methodologists, and also allopathic doctors, also those involved in mental sports like chess, Scrabble, bridge, and chemical and fertilizer industry, and morticians, pharmaceutical, right, and professions involving handling poisons of any type, those working in nuclear power plants, eye and brain specialists, surgeons, psychoanalysts, psychotherapists, and also those who are specialized in healing or curing brain, because are the fourth pada people, they want to help others. So in helping others, this kind of psychiatrists, kind of psychotherapists, this kind of things are very much coming into the picture. and investigators, scientific research, and all the stuff because of the influence of Ardra 3, and detectives, mystery solvers, because Rahu gives that kind of out of the box thinking, for Ardra world, and analysts of all types, and lightning experts, X-ray specialists, and radar personnel, and food processing places which produce, frozen junk food. That is Rahu basically, right? So thieves, legal and illegal drug dealers, salespeople adept at lying and double talk, right? So some people do a lot of lying and double talk, right? That is Rahu's behavior. And biotechnologists, chemotherapists, politicians and manipulators, and snipers and hitmen, all these come under Ardra. That is all behavior of Rahu, the professions that we discuss, because Rahu has a lot of professions that involve a lot of technique, a lot of research, a lot of technology, right? So that's what we discussed as professions, nothing else, right? The professions are mainly related to technology, right, and scientific research, out of the box thinking, and also as this drug dealers and nuclear power plant, these are all influence of Rahu, right? And also in the modern world, modern medical methodologies, and also the methodology that involves some kind of poison because of Rahu. Rahu is the head, right, head of snake. So that's where the poison lies. So we talked about something related to poisonous, things also, the professions involving poison also. If you see the geographical places where the Ardra energy is present, it's a natural phenomena like thunderstorms, because Ardra is all about storms, hurricanes and tornadoes are common, right? And research laboratories of all types because of Ardra 3 influence, and high-tech studios and shops, all these hospitals, communication, the modern world technology, wherever you find, that is Ardra. Also centers like radar facilities, radio stations, television studios, telegraph offices, nuclear power plants, all factories dealing with poisonous chemical processes, escalators, military bases where weapons are stored and maintained, all places connected with the above, these things are really related to the technology, right? And also the medical professions, the new age medical professions, right? So that's all Rahu, right? And in today's day and age, if you observe, every home has its share of Ardra because of electrical wirings and appliances, the electric stuff and electronic stuff. You have Ardra everywhere in this modern world, because Ardra is where the intellect is born, and especially the modern technology is born, right? So Ardra is all about that. It's a tamasic nakshatra because of its association with Rahu, and its tamasic quality actually manifests into chaos, diffusion, disturbances, fuzziness, all this stuff. It belongs to water element basically. Its wateriness is basically the emotional things. Ardra is all about that storm, right? That watery drops that we saw on the leaves once the storm is over. So it's always about strong underlying emotions involved within the intellectualism of Ardra, right? And it is a human nakshatra. Its association with Mercury, the planet which forms a bridge between the lower and higher worlds, relates to the plane of humanity, which lies right in the middle of the 14 planes of existence. Generally, we talk about 14 realms of the world, right? We say Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Kutala, like that, 7 worlds, the 14 worlds, right? So it's basically a human nakshatra, and its association with Mercury that we talked about. This is a planet. The Mercury is a planet that is actually forming the bridge between the lower and higher worlds, right? So lower world and higher worlds, in between we have Earth, where the human planet, humanity, the humanity related planet is present. So that's where it is considered as a Manushya Nakshatra. So this particular nakshatra carries the illusory aspect of the planet Rahu, and it is very much involved, this illusory aspect of Rahu, right? It's very involved with humanity and its struggle on the material plane on the planet Earth. So because of the illusionary aspect only, we do a lot of things in our life. So, and Ardra is in upward nakshatra, just like Rudra aims his arrow towards the sky, right? And Ardra sets its goals very, very high. It seeks intellectual challenges and higher knowledge in all its forms. So basically, it's a kind of research-oriented, it aims high basically. And whenever we encounter troublesome situations in our life, we are often forced to question the why behind it all, right? So when we get a problem, we think, why this problem has come? This is usually the time when many among us turn our gaze upwards towards the sky, right? And we just look up and try to think about our problem and try to get the solution. That upwardness, that is Ardra, that is the behavior of Ardra. And it is a very, very forceful nakshatra. It's a very sharp, it's called Tikshana nakshatra. So the ruling deity Rahu, you can see the intensity of it, and the storm god, right, Rudra. And it functions in a sudden, short manner, like a snake bite, right? And Rahu, we know, is a harsh planet. It's not a smooth planet. So biting, sarcasm and distressful events are associated with this nakshatra. So that kind of negativity is associated with nakshatra, this Ardra nakshatra always, The nakshatras Ardra, Jyeshta, Mula, and then, Aslesha. These four are the associated, they have some negative association always, they have some negative energy, basically. So it's a kind of, a bit of negative energy nakshatra. See, even when giving good results, it gives them in a sudden, short manner. The good results also, because of the Ardra energy, the good results also come very, very sharp, right? The sudden, sharp manner. So that is a behavior of this particular nakshatra. And it relates to the second half of the lunar month of Margashirsha, right? The middle 9 days. This period usually corresponds to the month of December in solar calendar. That's where we're actually making this video. And Ardra is also related to Ekadashi. So the 11th Tithi, right? So of the waxing and waning phases of the moon's monthly cycle. So every Ekadashi is actually having some energy related to Ardra. It has, right? And only auspicious, it's this particular nakshatra is only auspicious for activities related towards profession and places that we discussed. That's something like it's very favorable for destructive activities, because of the Rudra, destructing anything, war, destructing buildings, discarding old habits, bad habits. You want to remove any kind of old habits, you want to destruct any old object, right? And also it's good for confronting underlying issues and difficult problems which have been, it's for so much of long you're working on them. So such kind of problems, if you want to encounter, that's, on the Ardra day you can do that. It's good for research and creative activities also, and good for propitiating fierce deities like Rudra and Kali, right? So Rudra Abhisheka, those things we do, right? On the day of Ardra Nakshatra, it is very favorable. And it's unfavorable for any type of beginning. Generally, people don't start anything on the day of Ardra, right? Because it's a destructive nakshatra. So generally inauspicious for all auspicious activities like, marriage, travel, giving and receiving honors, religious ceremonies, such kind of stuff. It's very, very inauspicious for so many auspicious activities. It's unfavorable for any kind of beginning. So even though Rahu is the main planetary ruler of Ardra Nakshatra, it can be seen as a combination of the energies of Mercury and Rahu, because Mercury is the ruler of Gemini and Rahu is the ruler of Ardra Nakshatra. So Mercury and Rahu both are intellectual planets dealing with the duality of life and nature, right? So Mercury is another logical planet. It has a lot of logic associated with it. Rahu's mercurial side is relayed through this particular nakshatra. So this heightens the intellectual and thinking capacity of Ardra natives, and involvement in activities which emphasize communication, thinking, or use of the hands. And it ensures abundant mental and nervous energy, and mercurial qualities like wit, versatility, quickness of thought, and communication ability are also present in Ardra Nakshatra. So just like a diamond, Ardra's intellectualism is usually piercing and multifaceted. Ardra energy is good for scientific research and also modern technology. In its negative aspect, the Rahu Mercury influence of this nakshatra will make the native misuse their skills for selfish ends or harming others. So in some cases, the intellect is actually distorted to an extent that the native doesn't think twice about indulging in criminal actions. So criminality is also associated with Ardra. So when Ardra is having some negative planet, a person may tend to some criminality as well. So that particular person has to take care, right? He has to, perform Rudrabhisheka. He has to do a lot of propitiations. Better he reduces his anger. However, one must be careful regarding what one does under the influence of Ardra. There are so many ample of negative things a person can do by the influence of Ardra. See, because the consequences usually have to be faced within this lifetime, right? So this is also a good thing in the sense that we don't have to carry our baggage into future lives, and possibility of redemption within the present life itself cannot be ruled out. It's kind of very great saying, when an other person does something bad, he is going to be punished in this lifetime itself. So Rahu and Mercury's energy can also get one caught up in the present day information boom, which has very little to do with real knowledge. The infatuation, the imaginary knowledge, a lot of imaginary knowledge is also present here in the Ardra world. In its higher aspect, it can give true knowledge and the ability to look through illusions. It can also connect one's intellect to the unseen realms, and as a result give intuitive or psychic perception. So if you want to utilize the intellectual energy of Ardra, you can utilize, and sky is the limit. You can be very, very great intelligent person in the world. But if it has some negative influence, yes, the negative influence is only used for destruction and hurting others, and such kind of bad things only, right? So you need to understand the whole horoscope and how this Ardra energy is actually working on. So Ardra is the birthplace of Rahu's mysterious energy. Ardra is the birthplace of intellect, we can say. So here nature deliberately introduces chaos and diffusion in order to facilitate the process of creation and manifestation. So the chaos and diffusion, the wars, the fights, very much common in Ardra world. We can see that the creative process has been quite ordered in the previous nakshatras, right? Till Mrigashira, the creative process is very, very ordered. But here Ardra is a kind of storm. So Ardra is related to that random X factor in the universe which can never be grasped. It's a kind of storm. We don't know what happens after the storm. So such kind of energy is present in Ardra. In the language of physics, you can best exemplify this one as a kind of uncertainty principle and a kind of and quantum theory, right? So because of the such uh, the scientific behavior associated with it and the kind of uncertainty associated with it. Both of these things, uncertainty principle and quantum theory, both of these principles are broadly state that nothing is certain and everything is just a probability. So Maya, right? This is all Maya, Rahu, the Maya, right? But this particular nakshatra, however, reveals itself through true enlightenment, a process which involves all the 27 nakshatras. So Ardra is a very, very, it's a powerful nakshatra, no doubt. But how it utilizes its negative energy, the poisonous things, it's really bothersome. And how it utilizes its intellectuality, it's a good thing, right? They use it for the purpose of the people, then it is very beautiful. Its sexual animal is dog, and it's very clear, dog is an aggressive howling hound and not a friendly Scottish terrier, right? It's a kind of aggressive howler. And dogs are supposed to be, sexually active animals, and Ardra can be excessively indulgent in regards to sexual matters. It is most compatible with Mula, we say, the other dog nakshatra. So Ardra Mula, just opposites, right? Ardra is in the middle of Gemini and Mula is at the beginning of Sagittarius. So it's is red star, single star, right? It is present in the constellation of Orion, right? So the hunter, so that is the hunter, the Rudra. So this particular so it is assigned special status in Vedic mythology as well. So this is present in this particular nakshatra is present in Orion constellation, Orion, the area of Orion. Orion, when you say Orion, there are two nakshatras basically, Mrigashira and Ardra. So Mrigashira is represented by the front three stars of this particular Orion, the hunter, the front three stars which form the bow of the hunter. Ardra is represented by the bright star, is that red star, and it is situated at top left part of this Orion. So Rahu, Orion, the hunter, Mrigashira, Ardra package. This is all a kind of package. But Mrigashira is at least a smooth one, very, very smooth, very soft, right? As we discussed in our previous Mrigashira videos. So according to some Vedic scholars, if you observe, the Ardra as a single star which is also called as the beetle goose, is supposed to be the abode of Shiva. Ardra is abode of Shiva. Orion was supposed to come into being when Shiva assumed the form of a hunter and took out the Brahma's heads with his arrow, as we discussed in our first part of this Ardra series. So this makes sense when one sees that Brahma is the ruling deity of the neighboring star, that is Rohini. We have already seen that Vedic seers think of Mrigashira, the neighboring nakshatra, as Parvati's abode, right? Parvati is consort of Shiva. So though not well recognized by so many scholars, the fact is that Mrigashira and Ardra form, it's a kind of pair, right? Mrigashira and Ardra as a package, and Orion present. If you see the Purva Falguni and Uttara Falguni, that kind of package. So similar to that, the Mrigashira and Ardra, they are also a kind of pair. And Rohini is the abode of Brahma, and then Mrigashira is the abode of Parvati, and then Ardra is the abode of Rudra, the Shiva, right? So Shiva and Parvati, Mrigashira is Parvati, basically, abode of Parvati. So you can clearly see that area, Orion, is actually is the abode of Parvati and Shiva. It's the abode of Parvati and Shiva. So Rudra is the fierce form of Shiva, is the presiding deity of Ardra. So this is establishing the relationship between Rahu and Shiva, the destroyer among the Trinity. Shiva is the destroyer. So some Vedic literature, if you observe, they say Rahu resides in the heart of Nilakantha, another name for Shiva. So Rahu and Shiva are relatives basically, as Shiva is the husband of the sister of the mother of Rahu, right? So Rahu and Shiva are kind of relatives, you can say, because they are very much related. So his closeness, Rahu's closeness with Shiva is one of the reasons why Rahu co-rules Aquarius. So the Aquarius sign is completely related to Lord Shiva, right? And that's where Rahu is also having some ownership there. And both of them, even Rahu and Shiva, they share the same electric blue complexion, a color associated with Aquarius. So the significance of Orion, here we talk about Orion a lot. Orion is Mrigashira and Ardra. So that is the bow kind of structure is Mrigashira, and the dot left corner is actually Ardra. So the significance of Orion lies in the fact that it stands right in the middle of the galactic gateway between Taurus and Gemini. So Taurus has Mrigashira, and then Gemini, some part of Gemini also has Mrigashira, and then Ardra. So it is said that all the souls incarnating on planet Earth come through this galactic gateway. Whatever souls incarnating on our planet Earth, they actually come from this particular Orion area. Astronomically, you can say that the gateway points away from the center of our galaxy and can be seen as a doorway into our galaxy, right? So if you see this Orion with respect to the center of our galaxy, it looks like a doorway to our galaxy. So that's why you see in Vedic literature related to they say Orion is actually the Prajapati. In modern science they actually change the names, but Orion is actually the Prajapati. The Prajapati you see a lot of times, that is actually Orion. Prajapati is the progenitor of human race. And even ancient Egyptians, if you see, they saw Orion, they call Orion as Osiris. Osiris in their culture is the father of humanity. So Orion is also situated very close in the night sky to Sirius. Sirius is the star around which our sun is supposed to revolve, right? So it is supposed to revolve. Sun is supposed to revolve around Sirius, but you can understand how much Orion is really related to our galaxy, our human life. It is the doorway. It is the doorway. Because once this earth is formed in terms of Taurus, in the energy of Taurus, and then you can see the doorway is Mrigashira and Ardra. And Ardra is actually has the power to make effort. So because that effort is actually can be seen, there is this bow and the arrow, shooting of the arrow. So this particular nakshatra is related to sage Pulahu. Pulahu is one of the 7 celestial sages who is looking after our galaxy. So Pulahu means connector of space. Ardra gives a fascination for space and all spacey things like sci-fi adventures. It makes sense here, right? Connector of space. This spacey nakshatra would relate to this particular sage as connector of space, as Pulahu, right? So this is all in the sky. This is all you can see in the space. And if you're suffering from any bad effects of Ardra Nakshatra, the best remedial the remedial measure is to worship, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is actually Lord Rudra basically. Rudra is a fierceful form of Shiva. So repetition of the root mantra Om Eem, it's a kind of Om Aim, like that. Om Aim. So this particular mantra 108 times generally is a very normal mantra, general wellness mantra for Ardra people. That to the lunar month of the Margasirsha, where this particular Ardra Nakshatra is belonging, that can give a better energy for Ardra people. Even for the persons benefiting from this nakshatra also can chant Om Aim, and it is helpful for them to wear colors like red, green, shiny metallic colors emulating lightning, and all storm colors like silver, dark grey, black. So they're all good for Ardra. Red is the first one because it is red star. And whenever we talk about Ardra people, most of the astrologers talk about Albert Einstein, because his famous physicist actually born in Gemini rising, that's especially Ardra rising. The ascendant is Gemini and Ardra is present for him in the ascendant. So if you see his appearance, life and works reveal a lot about Ardra's functioning. That kind of intellectuality is only present in Ardra only, because Ardra is the place where this intellect is born, but the kind of intellect it has, based on the horoscope, it may go to destruction. That's where these people have to be very careful. And according to Varaha Mihira, when a person has moon in Ardra Nakshatra, these people are generally very ungrateful, wicked, violent and proud. So you can find a lot of literature, saying something bad about this nakshatra, but because of its... So everything is happy, but suddenly the intellect is born, the happiness is gone. These lines actually describe Ardra. So this is about Ardra Nakshatra. So whenever your 5th house is present in Ardra Nakshatra, that creativeness you have is very, very exceptional, you can say. That is Aquarius ascendant people, if they have let us say some planet, a good planet is in Ardra for them, that planet is actually going to create a lot of creativity, the kind of creativity that we never have seen on Earth. So Aquarius ascendant natives, they can create magics if they have some kind of planet in Ardra. How the planet is functioning in Ardra, that we need to analyze. But there is a very, very high scope that Aquarius ascendant people having some planet in the 5th house, that is in Gemini, can create wonders, that is in Ardra especially. So the kind of creativity they have is very, very, different. The only thing associated with Ardra in most of the literature is ungratefulness. That is the most generic impression on Ardra. But Ardra 4 people are really, really kind to others. That is also there. As a general impression, they say ungrateful, but this is the place where intellect is born. As a place where the scientific research is born. The intelligence, a superb intelligence is born here. So that's about Ardra Nakshatra. Thanks for watching this video.